don't know if you play video games, but I used to play this game called Pac-Man World on the old school Xbox. And I don't want to say anything, but I beat the game. Yes, I had a little help from some friends, but who cares? We beat the game. At the end of every level, there's a boss ghost that you have to beat. And he is really hard to beat. In every level, he gets harder and harder until you're at the very end, and it's like the super boss devil ghost. That's who you have to beat. And then you can win the game. Well, life's kind of like that. It's like you have to pick up these tools and these weapons along the way, and you have to beat the boss at every level. And there is a boss there's a devil who thinks he's a boss, I should say, but he's really not. He's a liar, and he uses his lies to prevent you from moving forward with God. And David shares a secret of his game changer in Psalm chapter 4, and that's what we're going to look at today because, friends, it's time to level up. All right, guys, thanks for joining me today as we're going through this journey through the Psalms. I love the book of Psalms. They're so relevant for today. Even though they are written hundreds and thousands even years ago, they're super real to what we're living through in this moment. And sometimes life is like a serious battle. I know this isn't a video game and it's not even the game of life, but God is definitely wanting us to beat the boss, the one who thinks he's the boss. He wants us to beat the devil, and he wants us to level up. And the good news is we have a game changer. In 2020 is, if you think about it, it's kind of a game-changing year. I looked up the word game changer. I looked up the definition, and it says it's an event, an idea, or a procedure that affects a significant shift in the current manner of doing or thinking about something. I mean, 2020 has halted. It's been like the record scratch, kind of year. There's been a significant shift in the current manner of doing things. And it might feel a little bit like the boss has hit you hard and hit us hard as a nation, as a continent. And, maybe if you play video games, you have your life meter, right? And maybe it seems like your life meter is starting to get into the red and you need to get some health like pretty soon. Okay, that just shows you I play too many video games because and those of you that know exactly what I'm talking about, you've played too many video games too, because really not, I'm just kidding. But it seems like life can hit hard sometimes, and this year has hit hard. But our God he's the game changer of all game changers. And Psalm chapter 4 is this prototype chapter of how David processes difficult seasons and difficult days and hard-hitting punches, how he processes that with God. And what I love about David, as we keep going through these Psalms, and you'll see it today, is he's brutally frank with God. Like he's honest, he's raw. He doesn't flower up his words all the time. Sometimes he does, but he doesn't always flower up his words. He starts this chapter off with his typical, just raw gut level honesty. In verse 1, he says, "Answer me when I call you. Answer me when I call to you, O God." I mean, it sounds like a parent right now. When I call you, you need to answer your phone. I know you see it. I know you read my text. Answer your phone. This is kind of what David is saying to God, is like, answer me, God, when I call to you. You declare me innocent. Free me from my troubles. Have mercy on me and hear my prayer. So he's just like, God, answer me when I call to you. Have you ever felt like that? God, will you answer me? Will you talk to me? Will you answer my prayers? And this is kind of a reoccurring theme with David in the Psalms. David is frequently not feeling answered by the Lord. And I can relate to that. I'm sure you can too. And so in his frustration, in his desperation, he pours out his heart to the Lord. Whereas you or me, we might give up quickly and just kind of resort to, okay, I'm just going to figure this out on my own. If you're not going to answer me, then I'm just going to do what I think I'm supposed to do. But David, he hangs in there with God, and he waits on the Lord until his spirit is lifted back up. And so he begins with this whole answer me. But if you look at the very last verse of this chapter, he ends with, I'm going to lie down and sleep in peace. I mean, verse 8, I in peace, I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, O Lord, will keep me safe. And so this whole idea of sleeping in peace is also a reoccurring theme for David. And it's also a practical way that he experiences God's face shining upon him, and the blessing of the Lord in his life is that he gets to lay down and go to sleep in peace. And as we go through this journey and through this first part of Psalms, you find David frequently distressed. Okay, but you also find him frequently, quickly free from his distress and his stress and his pressure. He doesn't usually sit around just wallowing in distress, although the time that he's wallowing, he's really wallowing, okay? He's not hiding things. He's not holding things in. He's letting it out. He's saying what he thinks. He's telling God what he feels. I remember the chapter, I don't know if it was last chapter or the one before, where he was like, okay, I'm so done with my enemies. God, smash them in the face and break their teeth. Okay, so that's an honest prayer, but he's getting it out. But generally within a few verses of either writing it down or singing it to God, he's gone from some level of being overwhelmed and totally distressed to kind of boasting in how secure and awesome he feels in God. It's I love to read the Psalms. And really that's a discipline that each one of us it would be good and it would be wise for us to apply this spiritual discipline to our lives when we're going through a year like 2020 or a day where we feel like we've been punched in the gut, right? It'd be good for us to practice what David is doing here and just be gut level honest with the Lord and speak honestly about who he is and about our situation into the place where we realize and recognize that his face is shining on us and that he is with us, and getting ourselves to that place where we're practically boasting in how secure we feel in God. See, I think that God is trying to awaken us right now to his heart for us. He's trying to awaken us to his heart for our nation and for the nations of the world. And when you look at what's going on in the world today and even in our own nation, it's easy to feel distressed and it's easy to feel overwhelmed. And so we have to take those things to the Lord and give them to him and get ourselves in a place where we feel secure in God and God alone. So we know from the Psalms that David, he likes to encounter God. He likes to meet with God early in the morning, sometimes even before the dawn. So the dude was a morning person. Okay. Cheers to you, David. Not all the rest of us are morning people, but he was. But then all of a sudden, between getting up in the morning and encountering God, he goes about his day, and then life happens like it does for all of us at times. And in verse 2, David is starting to sound off about what seems like national matters, right? It seems like something that's going on in his kingdom realm, if you will. And maybe these are things that leaders and world rulers and presidents might face from time to time. But he says this, listen to me, you elite among men, you who think that you're so smart, you who think that you've got this all in the bag, you who think that you're going to ruin me. He says, listen to me, you elite. How long will you people ruin my reputation? How long will you make groundless accusations? Will you ever stop insulting me? How long will you set your heart on shadows? Not the real thing. You're setting your heart on what is a shadow. You're chasing your lies and you're chasing your delusions. How long are you going to do that? And it seems like, to me, if I can put this in modern language. It seems like David's current thing that's stressing him out is the false information, the, if you will, I'll borrow a phrase, the fake news, if you will. It was trying to overwhelm him in his day. And he's, by the end of this chapter, he's in bed and he's trying to go to sleep, and he's thinking about the 10 o'clock or the 11 o'clock news broadcast that he just watched, and he can't believe all the lies they just said about him. And he's laying in bed and he's incensed. He's infuriated with the lies and the misinformation and all the insults and all the accusations. And he can't stand it. He's upset. Whenever I plug into mainstream media, I can't help sometimes but feel a little bit or a lot of it distressed when I listen to it, because there's this idea, there's this feeling of almost hopelessness or helplessness, or the feeling of, God can't help us. We're way beyond where we should be, which is true. But there's just this helpless, like, what? We're going to hell on a greased pole. It's the end of the world as we know it, right? And there's fear mongering, and I believe that I've watched this happen over the last 5 months, where the media has added fear and fueled fear all over our world. And it's like there's a fog over our country, over other countries. Obviously I see it more because I'm in America, but there's a fog, and it covers over truth, and it covers over hope. And it's really, I'm just going to call it out because I feel like the Lord wants me to. There's a lying spirit that has literally shrouded our nation with this. The best way to describe it is like a fog, and it's partially coming through the media. And if we don't, it's like if you're out on a ship on the ocean and it's really foggy, and you're coming into port, or you're coming into harbor, if you don't look for the lighthouse, if we don't look for the lighthouse in this season, if we don't look at the lighthouse of God and in His Word, we can easily be run aground by this fog that's covering our nation. And so, I don't know if I'm sure you've experienced it. All you got to do is turn the news on, and it's like it throws up on you. I'm sorry, that's gross, but you just kind of walk away from it feeling like, I don't know if I just got any truth told to me. I just feel, ugh. And there's some hopelessness, and God can't do anything about this lies of the enemy that's kind of attached to it, and fear, and it's not good. And we have to be, as Christians, we have to look to the light and to the hope of God's Word, and be able to shake that off and renew our minds and be transformed by the Word of God. So back to David, he is with these political opponents and these adversaries, and they've been coming against him, and they've been scheming all these plots. And the media of his day, if you will, has been writing articles about him and tweeting about him and posting all over Facebook about him. And basically lies are being spread all over Jerusalem and Israel about David, and he is incensed. He's upset. And so we look at verse 4. Here's David. Just watched the news, just watched Jerusalem, or read the Jerusalem Journal, or I don't know, the Galilee Gazette. I don't know. And he's laying in his bed, and he's trying to process. He's in processing mode still with God, and he's doing his best to resist anger. Look at verse 4. It says, this is David talking. He's probably talking to himself. He's talking himself off the ledge. He says, don't sin by letting anger control you. Think about it overnight and remain silent. Like, just zip it, David. Count to 10. Don't let anger control you. Another translation, the Passion, says, be still upon your bed and search your heart before him. Another one just frankly said, calm down. Just calm down and don't let sin get the best of you. Don't do it. Just calm down. And so what I love about David is in the midst of all these lies coming at him or being spread about him, and we can all relate to this. I mean, we're not world rulers or any kings or anything like that, but we've had the enemy speak lies to us all day long sometimes. And we get in our bed at night and we're just riled up, and here's what David did. He's talking himself down. He's like, just calm down. Don't let sin win. Don't let anger win. Don't let it get the best of you. And he refuses to be overcome by anger, and he processes it out with the Lord. He's working it out with God, and he's asking God to search his heart. And then in verse 5, he says, offer sacrifices in the right spirit. So I'm adjusting my spirit right now. I'm going to worship you, Jesus. That's offering sacrifice. I'm going to worship you. This is us saying, we're going to worship you, Jesus. We're setting our heart on you. Even though this day was crappy, you're amazing and you're awesome. And offer sacrifices in the right spirit and trust the Lord. But here's the honesty factor here. But in verse 6, he says, well, Lord, prove them wrong. Prove them wrong when they say God can't help you. In this, I love this because it's such a relational appeal to who he knows God to be. But it's also this confrontation of a big lie that he was tangling with and that many of us tangle with when we face challenges. And that big lie is, God can't help you with that. And that's a lie straight from the pit of hell. And we get attacked by this. God can't help you. God's not going to help you. You don't deserve God's help. He's too busy doing something else. He's not going to help you with that little tiny thing. Who are you? Right? And we get attacked by this in our economy, our personal economy, our finances. We get attacked by this in our health matters. Have you ever had the enemy of your soul when you're sick or you're fighting something, say, whisper into your ear, God's not going to help you with this? He's such a liar. We get attacked by this in our family matters. Like, your marriage, your family, too far gone. God's not going to help you with that. You've made way too many mistakes. You made one more mistake than you should have. You're done. It's over for you. We also get attacked like this in national matters. I mean, I have heard people literally speak things over our country like we're too far gone. We're going to hell on a greased pole, like I said. I've heard prophetic words like California is going to drop off the face of the earth because they're so evil and wicked, and just all this ridiculous, he's not going to help you kind of words. And there are people in the body of Christ who have even had what they would call a word or revelation or even dreams, and then we pass them around in the body of Christ, like through the internet, and we feed into this lie sometimes that God's not going to help you and we're too far gone for God, and we cloak it in all kinds of spirituality. But guys, any warning or any revelation or any word that conveys directly or through what you take away from it, that there's a God can't help you factor in that word, guys, it is a lie that needs to be confronted. There is nothing that God can't do. And so I join it with David with some of the words that I've been hearing spoken over our country in my lifetime, but it's kind of ramped up at the last years. I join with David and I say, God, Lord, prove them wrong. You're so good. You're so gracious. Prove them wrong. He says, Lord, prove them wrong when they say God can't help you. And then he says this, let the light of your radiant face break through and shine upon us. What an awesome prayer that is. All the lies, all the dire predictions of gloom and doom and all those things have to bow to his breakthrough, radiant face shining upon us. Guys, listen, even if there is a prophetic word that gives warning, because I do believe that God can give prophetic words of warning, but usually those words are to encourage us to get on our knees and pray or to change something. The Father's heart is always to break through the fog and shine his radiant, beautiful face upon us. His face, when he looks at you in the midst of all the chaos and the battle of your day, his face is beaming when he looks at you. And so David here again, he shows us the pathway through the stuff that we are walking through in 2020. And his conclusion, after basically imploring God, like, come on, God, come on, Papa, it's like this Abba Father kind of heart and kind of mentality. He's like, all this stuff, prove them wrong, God. Prove them wrong when they say you're not going to help us. And let the light of your radiant face break through and shine upon us. And David actually believes that God's face can break through and shine on all these situations that he just brought to the Lord's attention. All the twisting of the truth, all the lies that's coming against him, all the plots that the enemies of his soul were scheming against him, all the predictions and the God can't help you and he doesn't care. And then he actually also believes that it gets real practical too, that God's radiant face shining upon David, he believed it could give him peaceful sleep at the end of the day. Let me just read a few of these verses and I'll wrap this up. Verse 7 says, the intense pleasure you give me surpasses the gladness of harvest time, even more than when the harvesters gaze upon their ripened grain, and when their new wine overflows. He says, you, God, have given me greater joy. They may be prospering, they may have all these harvests and all this new wine, but you have given me greater joy. And then verse 8, now because of you, Lord, I will lie down in peace and I will sleep. Sleep comes for me at once, for no matter what happens, I will live unafraid. And this is why, friends, our God is the game changer of all game changers. It might feel like you're losing the game today, but our God is a game-changing God. It might feel like our country is going to hell on a grease pole, but listen, our God is a game-changing God. It might feel like your loved ones are never going to come to Jesus, but I'm telling you right now, our God is a game changer. He is the one who's going to turn it around. He's the one who does the play at the end of the game at 11:59, last quarter. No one saw it coming. I'm telling you guys, our game-changing God, listen, our game-changing God is about to checkmate the devil. He thinks he's so smart right now, the devil does, and he thinks he has the church backed into a corner, but he's going to lose and he's going down, and our God is going to win because he is the game changer. You watch some of these things that we're looking at right now, and we're like, how in the world, God, are you going to work this out? You watch. He will. So how do we access the game changer? Well, we do what David did. We practice honesty with the Lord. Pour out your heart to God. He can take it. We ask the Lord to prove the enemy wrong on your behalf. Don't believe the lies. Be careful what you're listening to. Remind yourself of who you are in the Lord. I'm a child of the game-changing God. When you lay on your bed at the end of the day, deal with any anger that's popped up. Worship the Lord. Trust Him. Receive His greater joy. And then go to sleep in peace. And no matter what happens, choose to say with David, I'm going to live unafraid because of my game-changing God. All right, that's chapter 4. Next time we're going to do chapter 5. It's going to be amazing. I'll see you then.